to have a big cooking day today for freezer meals. So this is what I'm planning on doing. I have some raw meat still that I'm going to make at least two. I'm hoping to get at least 2 meatloaves out of that. I have 10 pounds of potatoes that I am going to cook and make for mashed potatoes, and I'll use some for dinner tomorrow and some to put into bags to freeze and some on some shepherd's pies. I had 1 package of stuffing mix, and I got some French bread, and I tore it into pieces last night, so it's been sitting out getting stale, and I have some vegetable stock for that, and I will add some apples, some chopped up onion, and then I cooked some sausage last night, and I'll add that to that. I did my cooked meat last night so that it would be a little bit easier today. I have some good cooked ground beef that I'm going to make some shepherd's pies and some spaghetti sauce, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get some taco meat out of that also. I have some celery here that I'll use for the stuffing. I bought some sirloin steak, it was on sale, and then I also have a ribeye in the freezer that I pulled out. And I am going to slice those thin and make a crock pot beef and broccoli. I'm going to put it all in bags so that it will be ready just to put into the crock pot when I'm ready to do that. And I have, instead of frozen broccoli, I got fresh. So I am going to blanch that real quick, and then I will freeze it. The cooking time is different with the broccoli and the beef, so I'll freeze it into separate bags. I have onion that I'm going to chop up and celery that I'm going to chop up. I have green beans here, some that were left over in another can for the shepherd's pie. I have spaghetti sauce that I'm going to make into spaghetti sauce, and I need to get that going straight away because that's what I'm planning on for tonight also. And I have this Better Than Bouillon beef base that I'm going to use to make some gravy for the shepherd's pies. I also hope, I've got some softened butter here and some chocolate chips. I hope to make some chocolate chip cookie dough that I will put portion out and freeze, and then it will be in the freezer whenever we want chocolate chip cookies fresh. My goal is to get 11 meals out of this, plus about 4 or 5 side dishes. So, and that actually turns out to be more than 11 meals, because with it just being the 2 of us, we usually have leftovers, and 1 batch of something will usually get us 2 meals. So I am going to start by steaming my broccoli here, and I washed it last night when I put produce away, so it's clean. I'm just cutting it into bite-sized pieces. I'm peeling and chopping 2 apples for the stuffing, and then I'll put them aside in a bowl. And then I get started on chopping the celery. The celery and onions all go into a fry pan along with some olive oil to saute, and I add salt and pepper. I also add parsley flakes, some dried thyme, and some poultry seasoning to that. And this mixture will be for the stuffing. The broccoli is cool, so I bag that up. I'm now adding the chopped apples to the celery onion mix. I chopped up the remaining onion that I had and added it to a large pot along with some olive oil and some leftover cooked onion that I had in the refrigerator. And I will use this for some of the dishes that I'm making. I added the bread cubes to the French bread that I had in the bowl, along with some cooked sausage and the sauteed celery and onion and apple, and added more seasonings, more poultry seasoning and thyme and salt and pepper, along with some vegetable stock. I'm bagging up the rest of the sausage to freeze that I can use for pizza or breakfast tacos. The onion in the large pot is soft, so I'm pulling out what I need for the shepherd's pies, and I'm adding ground beef, garlic powder, basil, and oregano, and salt and pepper to taste. And then I'm adding the 3 jars of spaghetti sauce and a couple of teaspoons of sugar. And then I will just let that simmer for a couple of hours. I did rinse the jars out with a little bit of water and poured that into the pot as well. The stuffing is ready to put into the pans, and so I spray them with Pam, and I ended up getting 3 pans of stuffing out of this, and we used 1 pan for a dinner right away, and then I froze the other 2 pans. I like to double wrap with plastic wrap and then double wrap with foil. And into the freezer the stuffing and broccoli go. Now I'm starting on the meatloaves, and I have the recipe for that. I have a video already made of that, and I will go ahead and put the links for the recipes that I've already done videos for in the description box. spaghetti sauce is done and looks really good. And we actually had spaghetti that night for dinner. And I had a big pot of potatoes on to cook, and now they're done. And so I am just mashing them up, so mixing them up with my mixer in batches, since I didn't have a bowl big enough to do the whole thing at once. And here is what almost 10 pounds of potatoes looks like, made into mashed potatoes. It's a lot of potatoes, but remember I needed it for the shepherd's pies and for a dinner the next night that I was cooking for the missionaries of our church. And then also I was able to get some bags to freeze for future meals. So here I'm just putting the shepherd's pies together with green beans, gravy, meat, ground beef, onions, garlic, Worcestershire sauce, I think, and mashed potatoes on top with a little bit of cheese. Now I'm putting the rest of the mashed potatoes away. I've got that container with the orange lid on it for the next night's meal, and then I am packing the rest into bags. And I was able to get 3 bags of mashed potatoes out of what was left. So that's enough for 3 more meals for us. So now I'm just packaging up the shepherd's pies, and into the freezer they go. I was able to get 4 bags of spaghetti with meat sauce. So I was able to get the stuffing done, the spaghetti sauce done, the shepherd's pies and mashed potatoes done, and I'm just trying to decide if I have enough steam left in the evening to cut the meat for the broccoli and beef meal. It's late at night, but I decide to go ahead and go for it after all. So here I am slicing the beef really thin. That's probably 4 pounds or pretty close to 4 pounds of sliced steak, and so I divide it between 2 freezer bags. And Lucy's wondering why we're not going to bed yet. To the bags, I'm adding a 1/2 cup of low sodium soy sauce, 1 cup of beef broth, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, and I didn't have any of that, so I'm just drizzling the rest of the olive oil that was in the bottle. The recipe calls for 4 cloves of minced garlic, but I'm using garlic powder and probably only 1/4 to 1/2 of a teaspoon of garlic powder in each bag. And that was enough garlic flavor for us. But if you like heavy garlic, you add more. So that didn't take long, so I'm just sealing up those bags and smushing them around a little bit to get everything combined, and then putting it in my freezer. So it's a couple of days later, and I pulled everything out of the freezer so you could see what all I accomplished that day. 3 meatloaves that I wrapped in parchment paper and then packaged in freezer Ziploc bags. I can pull one out of the freezer the night before I want to use it, defrost it, and then bake at 350 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. Next we have the stuffing, and that can be taken out the night before and put in the refrigerator to thaw. Or if I'm being honest, I'll just tell you that I just take it out the morning of the day that I'm going to use it or the night that I'm going to use it and let it just thaw on the counter. Once it's thawed or you're ready to bake it, be sure and take off the foil and the plastic wrap and bake at 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on if it's completely thawed or not. So you'll want to check that. I like to have stuffing when we're having pork chops, or you could use it as a side to chicken or a meatloaf. Next, we have 2 shepherd's pies, and once those are defrosted, those bake at 350 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes. I got 3 bags of mashed potatoes, and those can be a side dish to the meatloaves, or if I wanted to heat them up and make a hamburger gravy to put on top of them. I emptied the frozen mashed potatoes into a bowl and microwave on high for 8 minutes. It will look watery and awful, but stir it, keep on stirring it and heating it up, and it will come together into beautiful mashed potatoes. I make an easy crock pot dinner by putting frozen Great Value meatballs and a can of cream of mushroom soup and a little water in the crock pot, and then once that's heated, serving that over mashed potatoes, and it's delicious. I got 4 bags of spaghetti sauce, so those just need to be defrosted and heated up, and just make a pot of pasta or spaghetti or rotini to go with that. Add a salad and a loaf of crusty bread, and you've got yourself a nice meal. Next, I'm showing you the 2 bags of beef and broccoli that I got, and I actually used this a couple of days later. I have a video that I'll put the link to. This was an easy Sunday afternoon meal, and it was just delicious. We loved it. I ended up with a bag of cooked ground beef that I divided into 2 bags, and I put taco seasoning in. So that'll come in handy on a night when we're feeling like burrito bowls or tacos for dinner. On the day that I did all of this freezer meal prep, I never got around to making the cookie dough that I had planned on. But the next day I went ahead and made a half a batch of chocolate chip cookies. And I divided them out into bags so that I can freeze those to put in lunches for my husband. So for the 2 of us, this is a lot of food, and it will give us 15 dinners, but most likely with leftovers, I think that number will double to 30 meals. And so there you have it. It's a pretty productive day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.